Richie, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are actually winning these belts. Am I crazy?
No, no, I think it's very probable that we still have Isla Dawn and Alba Fire as tag champions. I wouldn't be surprised if they go the other way, but if WWE is serious about building the women's tag team division, you have to have staples as champions. And I think Isla Dawn and Alba Fire are one of the teams that I would put to cornerstone that division around because they have, even though they haven't been given a chance to yet, they do have personality. We've seen the vignettes of where they put the curse on the women's tag team championships. But ever since they won them, that whole supernatural like spooky feature kind of died down with them. So that kind of confused me a little bit. But I do like their chemistry as a tag team. So if it was my company, and it's not obviously, I would keep the titles on them, have them established a little bit more.
I like the vibe that they have, and there is some substance there as a tag team where because always like two wrestlers thrown together and there's really no substance. It's like something for them to do. Isla and Alba, they did feud in NXT and then they had the big blow off match, and then I guess they kind of just became together. They were like spooky or whatever, and then they just wanted to be spooky together, right? So there is a backstory there. There is a nice I wish them as champions kind of would gain a little more substance than unfortunately Alba's mother's passed away in a car accident, and that they were in her home country a month later and they wanted to give her a feel good story.
Mhm.
So hopefully there's more to this than that. And I think that there is. I think that's obviously a tragic story, and they made a decent moment out of it, unfortunately, and fortunately for the tag champions. But I think it's more than that. I think they wanna go with them. I like them together, and the reason why I said I wouldn't be surprised if they continued their title reign here, because I think that the WWE could kinda pull a swerve here with Bianca and Jade, and then maybe kinda have like a, "Oh, wow, I didn't see that breakup coming out of nowhere," because they're so telegraphed with their breakups, right?
Mhm.
That a surprise breakup like this would kind of give this a little bit more juice than what it would have. Now,
Mhm.
if that scenario is true, let's go down a lane real quick. Jade Cargill, is she ready for that solo run?
You'd have to ask Jade Cargill that. I think she thinks she might be ready with that. I know a lot of people have her under the microscope ever since she came to WWE because again, people listen to the scuttlebutt of like talk that of her inexperience and not being the most well trained prior to coming to WWE and trying to hone her craft in a little bit. So any little thing that she does is going to be amplified. If there's a mistake, they're going to amplify it. If there is going to be a spot, they'll credit the other person for
Yeah.
making the spot go well. So, for example, the whole, I believe it was Backlash where she slipped on the ropes,
Yeah, her
right?
first match past WrestleMania.
Like either Backlash or it was Clash of the Castle. Like those were like like a 1-2 punch of Jade Cargill's inexperience showing, and would she benefit from being in NXT? Absolutely. I think anyone could benefit from going in that NXT system. And WWE calling her up to the main roster right away obviously shows that they have faith in her star power and star making ability. And the thing is, there's going to be a process. She's learning on the job. Now, is she progressing as fast as people would like? Some would say yes, someone would say no. It's all depend on what your expectations are of her. And if people are looking her as like Charlotte Flair level right off the gate, of course she's gonna be missing expectations. But if you're looking at this as like a progress and you're just looking at it as okay, she's still honing her craft, she's not being given the world right away. I think the tag team situation is great for her because it associates her with a top act like Bianca Belair, gives Bianca something else to do because I think a lot of people were fatigued from the championship runs she was having. Not saying they were bad, but when it's that John Cena effect where it's like, all right, you've been champion for over a year, we want to see you in a different creative light, so to speak. So it gives both of them something to do. Now, what I think would be interesting is you have the SmackDown women's roster, which is stacked right now. And of course, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, they're on Raw, and their kind of like team with Blair Davenport is intriguing to me. And the reason why I want them to retain mostly is because I want to keep that trio going. We have a lot of women's trios right now.
Mhm.
You know, I think we have more trios in the women's division than when we do the AEW trios division itself. They have a set of tag titles there. But with that, it gives women opportunity to be on screen and on television. And I think with Bianca and Jade, and they've been teaming with Naomi as well, you do have a good story, not only with that, but with Bailey as well, with Bailey and Bianca. So hypothetically, let's say Jade and Naomi turn on Bianca and Bailey respectively. Then you have this come to Jesus moment of Bianca and Bailey trying to put their differences aside to get their common enemy. You know, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. So you definitely could do that, but at the same time, you can still let it cook a little bit. You don't need the shock right away. Like, would I mind it in Bash in Berlin? No, but again, there's still longevity. If you're serious about making a women's tag team division, you can let it play out a little bit longer.
For sure. But my own thing is the shock of it might do a Jade better in the long run, right?
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
and then maybe like they catch Belair
Mhm.
and you bringing up the new trio of ALBA FYRE, Isla, Dawn with a Blair Davenport on SmackDown, right? Kind of gave me the stem of this idea is like, well, I kind of want them to continue being tag champions, right? And that new feature of Davenport thrown in there, it's just like, well, that's kind of the out or
Mhm.
the banana peel slip, right? Or a part of it, right? So maybe it's just like, well, these girls are relying on someone. So the psychology of Jade flipping on Belair would be like, I'm sick of relying on someone. I'm about me. I'm the biggest star. You introduced me to the WWE. It's about me. And I would just go full heel with her. And I don't think she really needs a mouthpiece, but I don't think honestly, first of all, I wouldn't know who that Stokely or that Mark Sterling or whoever would be, right? I think that she's a big enough star to stand on her own, sprinkle the WWE dust on her, especially. And I feel that the impact of like the suddenness and not the tea leaves, not the layers of whatever, would probably do her a little bit more and kind of heat her up at the most too. And with SmackDown heading to USA, rather intimately, right, in the next week or so.
Yeah. 3 weeks. Yeah.
Not even, honestly, maybe even 2 or 1 after this SmackDown,
Mhm.
right? That the freshness of a Jade would be huge for, the boiling point of that debut show. And I feel like they're gonna wanna start peaking stuff, especially starting on USA. USA is their home, right? They're going to Netflix in January, so, their heart is with really USA because they're always been in the mix since 2005 and before that since 2001 all the way up to 84 or before that, right?
Yeah.
So they're always on USA besides those few years in the middle. So it's just like yes, they have this new Netflix shine, but they make sure they want to kind of give USA definitely something. And SmackDown's such a strong brand coming off of Fox as well. So I don't know. I just feel like everything's lining up, and the shock and the awe of it all would be kind of perfect for that. So, do you feel that outside of Belair and Bianca, they are doing a good enough job kind of building up other tag teams to be contenders for the unholy union or whatever this trio is called, right?
Well, yeah, you have the Pure Fusion Collective, I think they're called.
I'll take your
Not,
word for it.
I'm not sure about the name, but again, you have Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler. You have the Caden Carter, Katana Chance on
They have
Raw.
Lyra too.
Lyra as well, but as strictly tag teams, I think what they are doing, and it's smart because you've seen it done within the past couple of years with Triple H at the helm, is the factions. Even though a lot of them aren't getting development personality wise, they are still on screen as an on screen presence to be a part of the show. And you also have Candice LeRae, Indy Hartwell as well. So you have all different tag teams. And
Mhm.
is it enough to justify a division? It depends how seriously you're taking it. WWE isn't the be all end all when it would come to tag team wrestling. There were brief periods of times in the 80s and the early 2000s, but then it slowly becomes okay, let's just throw these people together because we don't really have any creative to them. At least with Jade, Bianca, there is a semblance on, hey, we're actually trying to make a tag team out of this right now. We're actually trying to find and build that chemistry. So I don't see them splitting. And if they did split, I think it would harm the tag division because it's like, who else would you base it around? You know, you have Isla and ALBA FYRE, which I would like them to be kind of like the cornerstones, but you need to have people to work with, and you need somebody with star power akin to a Bianca and Jade in order to replace that team. You also have Nia and Tiffy, even though Nia is the WWE Women's Champion. So you do have the pieces there. It's all about putting the puzzle together in order to make a flourishing tag division. And kind of develop the personalities because even though Alba and Isla have been having the tag team titles, we don't know about them personally wise. You know, they're spooky. That's pretty much it. And them as individuals, we don't really know much about. Like with Jade and Bianca, we could kind of like separate. All right, this is Jade, this is Bianca, this is how this person reacts, this is how this person reacts. And I think with tag teams, it's like you're either going to have the one group think tag team where it's like the tag team is the brand, not the wrestlers individually, or you're going to have those tag teams that kind of like pair up like minded. And it's like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like you have a Jade Bianca, or if you want to go for other tag teams, you had like minded tag teams like Nia Tamina for a little bit. You had the Iconics, you know, who were just like one group think tag team. And then you had the separate ones where it's like, you know, these are different people like Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. So you got to fill the void somewhere if you're going to do a turn with Jade and Bianca.
Yeah, because another reason why I believe this perhaps could be happening the way I kind of laid it out is they kind of have been doing that. You can say poorly or not, but they kind of have been building up slowly with these tag teams. And don't mind you, Chelsea and Piper too. That's a team
Yeah.
that they could go to as well. But the unfortunate part of all this, it feels like they have pairings, not
Mhm.
teams, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, they
I
have
don't know.
teams, trios, you know, they have a good mix, but at least they're being presented on television. It might not be
Absolutely.
as effective as we want them to, but there is an attempt to get screen time, no matter if it's 30 seconds, 30 minutes, whatever. There is an attempt to present that on there. And with the women's speed division, I know this is a completely different topic in general. That's also going to get women more airtime, you know, in general. So honestly, I think women's wrestling, at least in WWE, it's progressing, albeit slowly, but it is progressing. Like we're kind of out of that hump where it's like, okay, we don't need to fall back on the four horsewomen and Asuka to carry these divisions forward. I think now we're at a point where we can see we have a lot of talented women right here. And we have enough talent for not only a women's tag division, but if the roster gets deep enough, we could potentially have a women's intercontinental or US champion. But I would like them to focus on making this division flourish first before there's any talk of having those titles introduced to the main roster.
Yeah, I feel like the speed title is kind of like plan B off of the US and the women's IC. That's just my gut feeling. But overall, as we get out of here, Richie, I feel that just if we went back with Jade and Belair, it's like they're two stars, right? That are bigger than any other women in the tag division, of
Mhm,
course. And it just feels like we've been there, we've done it, and it's like we're kind of filling time, right? So
mhm.
I think it would be a little bit more justifiable if they went without them and then they did something outside of the tag division right now. I feel like it would just be a staple, for the unholy union to kind of beat them again, right? Especially in the singles match this time where they didn't pin them last time. They pinned the other tag team in it, Zoe and Shayna.
Mhm.
And I just feel like it would just kind of be a staple on their run, and it slowly and it kind of low key would elevate the tag team titles, opposed to giving it to the two big stars that you would think would elevate it, because no one's really on their level enough to justify kind of facing them for it, in my opinion. So I don't know. I guess I'm rooting for Faya and Dawn. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one, I think.
Nah, I agree. I'm a bigger fan of Fire and Dawn than I am Jade and Bianca, just because I think there's more teams for Fire and Dawn to
Yes.
work with, and not only that, I think the struggle if you're going to keep this tag team for Jade and Bianca has to be told. You know, their loss of the tag titles, they didn't really have that road climbing back up towards that number one contendership or championship position. You know, if you want to make this tag team feud mean something, You have to show that uh, that progress on just trying to get back to that moment, that mountain to climb. And I feel like it's tough when you have two people that are powerhouses, that are strong, that are athletically gifted. It's hard to create that come from behind victory, like when they would do with John Cena, like what they would do with Roman Reigns. You know, you gotta have that kryptonite for at least a little while in order to show the cracks in the armor where you're like, oh, this performer isn't all that perfect. You need to have that in order to make that relatable to the audience. And I feel like Bianca and Jade can still be related to a larger portion of the audience if they have that struggle that we're seeing depicted on television. And we haven't really been seeing that on SmackDown. We've seen bits and pieces of interaction between them, but we haven't seen like those chief rivals where it's like we need that, like their Lex Luthor, their Joker, their supervillain that could oppose them through trickery and deceit. And I feel like Isla and ALBA FYRE both have that ability to bring that out of Bianca and Jade.
Yep, for sure. All right, Richie. The last episode was Stone Cold Steve Austin walking out of the WWE, a solo edition. First time in a long time that we got
Yeah.
wrestling retold with Richie Mars in the solo edition. Why don't you give us a little heads up about that and what's next?
So yeah, Wrestling Retold and Relive with Richie Mars is the podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast. This is my first audio documentary style podcast. You know, music in the background. I research everything from a first party standpoint. There isn't any third party sources or anything. I get quotes and I get like excerpts from the parties involved with Steve Austin's walkout in 2002. I got excerpts from Stone Cold, JR, Kevin Nash, people who were in charge at the time, Brian Gewirtz, who pitched the idea of Brock Lesnar versus Austin, the match that caused Austin to walk out, even though there's a lot more underneath that underneath that whole thing. But yeah, it's only a half hour, so if you'd spare 28 minutes or so, I go through everything and how Austin came back, where the meeting took place to cause him to come back, how much he got initially fined for coming back after
And then
walking out,
negotiates that fine down.
and negotiates the fine a little bit until his final match at WrestleMania 19 for 19 years. So a lot of good things in this. I'm really proud of this episode, and hopefully you check it out. Our Wrestling Retold Relive with Richie Mars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can follow me at the @ handle you see right over there. And you could follow me on TikTok and Instagram for new content every day, new videos every day about current day wrestling. If you want to follow current day wrestling and Wrestling Retold Relive with Richie Mars, it's mostly the nostalgia stuff, some current stuff, but mostly nostalgia storyline stuff. So hopefully you check it out.
Awesome. Check it out, guys. I can't give it enough of an endorsement as is, but we'll see you on the next one, buddy.
Thank you.